And we also have to find a way of engaging public-private partnership, because it's not always government that can provide money. Our people are not employed. Our younger generations are up and down. These are issues. Oh my God. Thank you.
I'd like to hear from what you intend to do to improve the internal revenue of Plateau State.
Well, the truth of the matter is that there is a need to reduce our monocultural dependence on oil as a major source of revenue. So there's a need for fiscal federalism, where states will look inwards to be able to generate revenue. And to a large extent, there has been improved strategies that have been inculcated into the system, blocking leakages and ensuring that there's a high level of automation in terms of revenue collection, so that even those who are directly collecting revenue do not just have direct access to cash in one form or the other. And that has also helped significantly. The training of those who are also to be our tax officers is also key. And that's led to the establishment of what you might call this Tax Institute, this Tax Academy, where those who are involved in dealing with these issues can be properly trained so that they know their responsibility in handling that. But there's also one critical avenue of further generating revenue in this state. The whole issue of land administration, which has led to the establishment of pledges, where with just a click of the button, you'll be able to identify the nature of land administration and the ownership, and be able to find out whether people have been able to pay their ground rents in one form or the other, and embark on massive recertification that will enable people to be able to have a sense of responsibility in contributing to governance, so that they will be able to gain from the facilities that will be extended by government to the various locations. That is very key. And that will help us to a large extent. But the establishment of industries on the ground, where they will definitely be given some degree of tax holidays, and when they do invest, they will be able to employ more people, and then we'll be able to have some revenue generated in the process, either through the payee and other forms. But equally very important is the fact that the informal sector needs to also be looked into critically in terms of addressing our revenue generation needs as far as the state is concerned, because they stand to benefit from the huge investments of government and the facilities that have been extended in the various communities. And that is also important if we are to look at that. Of course, our agricultural potentials will certainly be explored in a manner that will generate more revenue for this state, because even mere potato can even be a complete representation of our oil. In fact, it will be a replacement for oil in Plateau State.
Thank you very much, Senator Potter. I have to ask Ambassador Kirsi now to tell us what he intends to do to improve our revenue internally generated.
When I saw the oil price nosediving in the international market, I felt very sorry for my state, because this state is one of those states that has been over-reliant on the allocation from the federation accounts. We cannot be talking of generating internal revenue without respect for rule of law. And that is one of the cornerstones of my administration. People have to pay for services, whether it is water, whether it is for land, or whatever it is. People have to pay for these services. One other area that I intend to undertake to increase IGR, that is internally generated revenue, is to make sure that we have industries here and there. And the only way you can do that is to look at the power supply system in this country, in this state. We have NESCO here. Power is one of my 7-point agenda. I hope you are keeping the count. I intend to go into serious negotiation with NESCO. NESCO depends on hydro power energy, not gas. The turbines are not run by gas. I intend that all our local governments should be electrified, all the villages. That has the advantage of stopping the rural-urban drift. People will be able to set up small industries here and there, which will generate revenue for the state. And you can do this in phases. That, I think, is a major consideration in my administration.
Thank you very much, Ambassador. We're here on the Plateau Gubernatorial debate put together by Viewpoint Nigeria, Plateau Intelligentsia, and MOPPLAH. Has been supported by the Plateau Radio Television Corporation. We also have been supported by Enough is Enough Nigeria, and also Amplified Radio. You can listen to us live on amplifyradio.net and the moment. This is Plateau Gubernatorial debate. I have candidates here representing 3 political parties. I have Ambassador PRTVC representing the Labour Party. We have Barrister Samuel Lalong, Right Honorable Barrister Samuel Lalong representing the All Progressive Congress. And we have Senator Jan Plateau representing the People's Democratic Party. The Plateau Gubernatorial debate continues with the next question, which is about the youth. There's quite a number of youth that we know that are skillful and are qualified to handle certain responsibilities and earn a living. They don't have such opportunities. And so, how, how do you intend to improve on the lot of these young people who are skilled yet unemployed?
Well, the truth of the matter is that it's not always government that will provide employment, even though government, for now, seems to be the largest employer of labor on the ground. However, there is a need for us to challenge our youth to begin to engage themselves in productive ventures in one form or the other. So there's a need for training as far as entrepreneurial capabilities are concerned, so that microcredits can also be extended to them so that they can establish their own industries and be able to employ, even if these industries are small scale in one form or the other. That also requires a reorientation of our youths. The establishment of skills acquisition centers is very key for those that do not even have the skills. That is also very important if we want our youths to be productively engaged. God did not make a mistake in making man with 1 mouth and 2 hands. The need to utilize his hands is very key, rather than people always looking for the possibility of just application in government circles in that order. And the agrarian revolution that is required in this state will help to engage more of our youth, since 70% of the population of this state is found in the rural areas and they are engaged in agriculture. Expanding the opportunities within that sector will also help, so that agriculture will become a real-time business to that extent. It is also very important that we will be able to establish training institutions for our youths, so that they will have a better reorientation with regards to getting themselves gainfully employed. Of course, the idea of values is also something that needs to be readdressed in terms of reorientation, so that people do not begin to embark on so much of these social ills to the extent that they become a problem to society. That will require a great deal. So we have to draw a dividing line between those that are employable, those that are unemployed, those that cannot even be employed. These are things that we'll have to look at, and then we'll be able to see to what extent we can engage each and every of these subunits in a manner that they'll be productively engaged.
Thank you very much. And it's nice to have people. I'm sure you were witnesses to how I was about to miss the next person to respond. And this shows that we are getting somewhere in the place. Perhaps I don't know is the next question is the next question. I'd like to ask Ambassador now the issue of youth unemployment. How can we address this when we go down?
That's one area that is the soft spot of my mind. I have engaged, I have made sure that in my career, in the public service career, I've made sure that quite a number of youth have got gainful employment all over the place. Now, in this state, we cannot talk of creating employment for the youth unless the enabling environment is there. Unfortunately, because of the series of crises in Plateau State, most investors have relocated their investments. My government will find a way of bringing back these investors so that they will create job opportunities for our youth. This is very, very, very important. But we cannot do that unless there is security and peace in this state. We must bring back investors in this state. Secondly, our youth must be trained and retrained so that they don't restrict themselves only to the state. I will use my international connection to get them gainfully employed. Even outside Nigeria, I have all the connections. We have done this for other African countries. I can do this for my youth in Plateau State.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. One thing I wanted to add is that the youth program is very dear to me as a youth. And I'm very happy that perhaps when you produce a governor that is a youth, his primary concern will be the youth, because I am a youth. Today I flag off a football competition, and I told them that by the grace of God we'll set up a sports institute here. Because you have, apart from getting them employed, you also have to get them engaged. Because football is now a lucrative, I played football for Plateau, I represented Plateau. But that time there was no money. But today if you train your child in football, that child can bring investment. Mikel is bringing investment to this state. He's bringing investment. We need to go back to that. Secondly, tourism. This state is blessed with natural endowment. I understudy the case of Akwa Ibom. I understudy on my own the case of Cross Rivers, and I have gone far to the case of Osun. Osun today is one of the highest employer of labor, and youth are deeply engaged. In Akwa Ibom, you can take tourism, like my elder said. If you provide the unity on the plateau, if you provide peace on the plateau, investors will start flowing into the state, and that way you will engage the youth. So, but our focus must be on tourism. If you take tourism alone, you take tourism and you bring out this market and put in rural markets everywhere. I'm telling you, this state will transform this state to a different. Many people, it will be a state that will be of envy to all other sectors in Nigeria. With our weather, people want to come in. For instance, I also took off a golf competition today, and I said, I know that there is no way you can bring in investors when you don't have these facilities. You need a golf course. It's sad that in here, what Akwa Ibom did was that, first of all, to establish a golf course, international golf course. And because people come to play golf, investors were there. Oh, I get it.
Thank you very much for respecting the answer, and that is it. Okay, we are on to the Plateau Gubernatorial debate put together by Viewpoint Nigeria, Plateau Intelligentsia, and MOPPLAH. And we are viewing it live on the Plateau Television Corporation, and also it's being streamed on Amplified Radio.net. We thank you for joining us. We shall continue with general questions now, and we will be going through, and on the social media platform, we have had a few such questions coming through, and we will go through and ask these questions. This one is coming from Ezekiel Delta, and Secretary, Plateau State. The question is, of course, I have to address that to Ambassador Hussein. The question is, how do you intend to manage the debt profile of the state? Will you be able to carry out other projects, considering that a huge fraction of the revenue will go to debt servicing?
Well, Mr. Ezekiel Dauda, that's a very good question, very relevant question. I don't know the debt profile. I don't have the slight knowledge of the debt profile so far. But what I get in, and I see what it is like, I will have to look at the terms and the conditions under which these debts were acquired. This is very, very important. I must look at the terms, conditions, agreements that gave rise to these debts. Then, based on existing laws and in conjunction with my State House of Assembly, we will be able to look into the solutions to these problems. And then, of course, find out whether the debts that accrued were judiciously used. The money that were taken from these debts were judiciously used. Very, very important. I don't want to go beyond that now until I get into the office.
That's interesting. And so let me hear from Advisor Alon. Yes. I intend to address the debt profile of that state.
Well, first of all, he said he doesn't know, but I know. I know. The debt profile of Plateau is over 100 billion. It's today over 100 billion. I'm also aware that within a few days ago, I also discovered that even the internally generated revenue is tied to a debt. It's tied to a debt. It's given as a collateral. It's very scary. Perhaps that is why people of Plateau are moving for a change. That's why they are moving for a change. Because if we are not careful, the rate of this debt will put us into prison. All of us will become slaves. All of us will become slaves in our land. And that is why, and why the high profile in drug debts. All the debts that were collected were all put into road constructions. Either road constructions or building of government houses. We need that comfort when our people at the rural areas are impoverished. They are very poor at the rural areas. And what we want to do is a danger. And of course, anytime you come, if God is the one that's going to provide this change, it will provide the facility to improve on the debt. But I'm very, very worried about the debt profile. About 168 billion and nothing to show for it. If this money was put into investment, if it was put into tourism, we'll be smiling. If it was put into education, it will be smiling. And how can you have justification when you are collecting that debt and you can't pay salaries? You can't pay civil servants. You can't improve the civil service. But together, my priority is that we must be united. And I know that Plateau is united for a change. And that unity is what will help us together to find ways of paying that debt. I know after 2015. So if you don't know about that, I'm very concerned about that, and I've done my investigation about it.
Well, and then we realized over the years that it is also important to address developmental needs of the state. And there are certain investments that you need to do that definitely, if you don't have the resources immediately, you definitely will have to incur one debt or the other. I do not think he knows the debt profile of the state at the point that he's saying over 100 billion. This is an exaggeration in that order. But nevertheless, what we need to do is that in the course of remanaging these debts, we need bonds. This bond arrangement will certainly free a number of those debts that have been incurred, so that at the end, the interest that will be generated will be far less compared to, so that you have a long-term agreement in terms of repayments for this debt. So long as these funds that are gotten are used for developmental purposes, it becomes very incumbent on us presently to respect the arrangements that have been on ground. That way, we'll be able to deal with developmental issues that will be able to transform this state to a better place. You take a look at the stadium that's under construction. Take a look at the STC project that will cost billions. Take a look at the expansion of the university system, even with the structures and facilities. Take a look at the improvement of the health sector. Even the road networks are very relevant, because in the true sense, they are actually economic veins that provide the possibility of the movement of goods and services, and that will further expand the economy of the state. To that extent, we'll be able to raise and generate more revenue. The internally generated revenue effort will certainly help us in also addressing the debt profile, because as we improve it, we'll be able to address some of the debts that are on ground.
Okay, thank you for that response. Here we are. I'd like to also remind the candidates that, remember, we have time period to have rebuttals at the end of the session, so we're going to have, eventually, we will have some time, even more ample time than now, to probably address the issues that you may think you need to correct or make clearer clarifications on that. And now let's continue with what is going through on the platforms of the social media. We do have a question here on scholarship. I'll have to address that to Vice Chairman, if I'm right. All right, so what plans do you have for scholarship for students? This is coming from two different people. There is Amlai Ahmad Patani and also Kimberly Nande, who is more particularly interested in foreign scholarship. How do you think you intend to address these issues?
Yes, I think in most states in this federation, in most states have even moved from scholarship in universities to scholarship overseas. These were things we used to see. But I know that in the last 10 or 15 or 12 years, I've not seen priority on scholarships. I'm a beneficiary of scholarship. My parents were very poor. If not for scholarship, I would not have gone to university. So we still want to go back to the olden days. Scholarships are going to be given priority to students. Not only scholarship within Plateau State. States are sending students outside. They are sending students abroad to specialize in different fields. You need scholarship to give to those people. And here, I'm not aware where we got scholarship in the last 10 years or the last 8 years, where students were sent abroad on scholarship. Even the ones that are still in the universities are not paid their scholarship. They are not paid scholarship. But it's my priority. I'm a beneficiary of it, and definitely I will reintroduce proper scholarship at the university from the beginning to the university level. And again, you know the manifesto of my party is free education. And I know the man can do it. If you vote for the president, if you vote for Buhari, you get scholarship. You get scholarship from the beginning, you get scholarship. He promised that he's going to give scholarship. So scholarship is not a problem to us. Our own is to provide the environment on the plateau. That is peace and unity. And all these things will come in. But if they don't come in, and they will come in within 4 billion, there's no need why I cannot pay a scholarship to students. That's why I cannot pay.
Thank you very much. I would like to ask...
I would like to say that the price of peace is eternal vigilance, so that we'll be able to deal with the challenges on a daily basis. Nevertheless, the scholarship that is given to our students is very paltry. Just nothing to write home about. There's a need for an upward review of this scholarship, and there's a need for a strategic scholarship arrangement and be able to create what you might call a social corporate responsibility fund that will encourage even those that are in the private sector to make contributions towards improving our educational needs here and there. And that's also very important. Added to that is the fact that we need to encourage our local governments to move into that terrain where they can also identify students who they will need to give scholarship to, not just at the level of the state. Local governments can move into that direction so that that will also add value in terms of development for our state and for the youths in particular. But apart from that, we also require a situation where areas of comparative needs should certainly be sponsored by the state, and especially outside. I do not just assume that any kind of study that anybody wants to undertake, when it is easily and can be done within Nigeria, then we must provide scholarship at that level. But once you have a comparative advantage, as it is now, we have seen circumstances where the state has actually given scholarships to students abroad, some of them in the aviation industry, some of them in the gemstone polishing sector, which will add value to our mining sector in this regard. And what is most important is that there is a need to ensure that we block leakages with regards to the apportionment of scholarships to students and be able to identify in a graded manner the scholarships that will be extended to the students. We all know that even for law students, scholarship is being given by the state government in the process, and that is very key. And it has been improved significantly, over 200,000 or 300,000 per student. And I think there is a situation where we have to improve in this direction.
Thank you very much.
Well, as I said earlier, the issue of human capital development will occupy a strategic place in my cabinet. And I intend to look at critically the issue of scholarship awards. I will reintroduce it quite seriously and will adhere to it without any conditions. What I mean by that is, and in particular, in skilled areas. I understand that those recipients of scholarship awards are made to sign certain agreements. When they finish whatever course they have undertaken, they have to come back and serve. This will not be practiced in my government. When you finish and you find a good job anywhere outside the country, anywhere in the world, please feel free to go and take that job, because you'll be carrying the Plateau flag into the diaspora. Now, I will use my connections to get scholarship awards from reputable NGOs and foreign aids. We have done this, I have done this for other African countries while I was in office, in foreign service, and I have the connection, and I'm not boasting about it.
Thank you very much, sir. It's interesting, and I'm sure people are listening and to that. There's a write-up to this question in terms of scholarships and free education. There is a question that's coming through. I'd like to get that one clear so that we will put that. But before that comes clear, there's a platform is still giving me a little bit of an issue. So when that is sorted out, round up by you so you can respond to it. But we have a question that has to do with the youth again, empowering the youth. This is coming from Bobby Azori. Bobby Azori is asking, do you have any plans to give business loans to youth who wish to start businesses that do not have access to funds or such startups? Let me go on with this that's question.
Yes, certainly, like I said, we'll have to create all possible avenues for economic investments. And because of that, we look at our budget and see whether we can make available funds for jobs, for chaps, so young men who really want to be on their own. But this will be closely monitored. We'll do this in conjunction with the microfinance institutions that we have in the state. My government will do that with the microfinance houses. There are quite a number of them here. We'll look into that, see whether funds will be made available to these young men. Definitely. But under very strict terms and conditions.
Thank you very much, Professor Lama. I'm sure I missed that, but I'm supposed to be with this. Can you respond to that, Professor?
Very well. I will tell you that I understudy the Oshun example. What we lack these days in Plateau is the peer review mechanism. I remember when I was the Speaker of the House, what I used to do is to set my Houses of Assembly to understudy what obtains in most states. When they come back, we put ideas. Perhaps we just sit down here and we don't look outside. In Oshun, they engage donor agencies. They give about 60%. Those donor agencies who are investing in the state, 20% or 40% is given by the state government as loans to the youth. If you go there today, majority, about 60-70% of those who are employed are youth. That is the concept I intend to introduce on the Plateau. We have to provide the facilities, provide the environment for people to invest on the Plateau. It is because people want to come and invest on the Plateau, but we are not living, there is crisis on the Plateau. We are not united on the Plateau. I will use the example of Oshun. Specifically, I have it ready-made, and I'm going to download it during my campaigns. And Plateau people will see what is done in Oshun. For youth, you don't need to wait for a federation account. You don't need to wait to take loan, to give loan, to give to the youth. The donor agencies are all in Oshun, and today, with little allocation, their allocation is not half, I'm not sure, it's not half of what we get on the Plateau. But today, they are the highest employer of labor. And if they are the highest employer of labor, they are paid as and when due. They're very happy, the youths are very happy. That's why you saw them killing themselves when the governor was not going to be re-elected. That is the kind of concept that we intend to introduce here. We will move our people to other states. Instead of sitting down and dying with all ideas, let them go outside and see what is happening in Kano. Let them go and see the red. Okay.
Well, I do know that we need to leverage on certain arrangements that have been made even on the ground. At the time the community banks were transiting to microfinance institutions, there was a bailout provided by the state to ensure their survival to become microfinance institutions. it will be important to take advantage of these institutions that have been established significantly now, so that we can use them as channels towards the distribution of microcredits to our youths, especially for gainful employment. But they have to be trained with regards to entrepreneurial investments in one form or the other before they are given those funds in that order. I want a situation where we'll be able to establish a youth empowerment fund that allows for private sector contributions as well as the state government contribution, as well as local government contribution in that direction. And that will require, for instance, an average of, let's say, 1 billion per annum for just, microcredit injections into the system, so that more and more of our youth can have access to when they have brilliant ideas about how they want to start an investment in one form or the other. And then, of course, that will be properly studied through our established agencies like the Community Social and Development Agency, through other projects that will certainly be brought up that will be largely focused on youth empowerment, which we will call youth empowerment schemes on the ground. And that way we'll be able to reach out to as many of our youths. So those youths that are gifted, that are talented, whether it be in the music industry, in the performing arts, in whatever form, there's a way we can also invest directly so that we can expand the latent potentials of our youths using this as an avenue in that order. So to a large extent we'll be able to invest in our youth and issue microcredits and devote on a yearly basis a specific amount for the injection into the system.
Thank you very much, sir. This is it. You are on to the Plateau Gubernatorial Debates 2015, put together by Intelligentsia, Viewpoint Nigeria, and MOPPLAH, supported by the Plateau Television Corporation, live, the receivers and watching, and also AmplifyRadio.net. And you can reach us with your questions on the social network platforms for Intelligentsia, MOPPLAH, or Facebook, and the Twitter handles they have. Viewpoint Nigeria, Intelligentsia, and MOPPLAH, so we can get to know what your feelings are and what you would like the candidates who are canvassing for your votes come this coming month, 28th. And so, if you have that, please go into that and send us. From there, we have a question talking about what plans you have to revamp the tourism sector in the state. It's coming from Mark, from State Locus. Now, I have to come back to the right place and answer he was supposed to Julian's next week. How do you do to revamp the tourism sector?
Well, it's very simple. I have it already. I understudied the case of Akwa Ibom, I understudied the case of Cross Rivers. But first of all, let me come back to Plateau. Well, the deputy governor, the running mate is here. There is something that is not done in this state. If you want investors to come to this state, you must start issuing certificate of occupancy. Because without certificate of occupancy, people cannot get loans, will not have facilities, will not access the facility. In Akwa Ibom, it's tourism. Here we have them. Why should we go to Yankari for seminar? Why should we go to Obudu? Why should Plateau be going to Obudu to hold seminars when we can develop Pandam Wildlife Park and be going for seminars there? We have good weather here. The Wase Rock has been left there. How much do you need to put there? If you can put 10 billion in constructing the road, if you put 10 billion in Wase, we will get a lot of revenue coming from Wase. If you put 10 billion in Pandam Wildlife Park, you get the Just Museum by J.D. Gomo was what was bringing investors to this state and investment into this state. The zoo, even the zoo, people were coming from all over the state to see our zoo. But today we are looking at it as something else. Tourism with a good weather, and that was why I mentioned it. I said I will construct first a very good golf club, a green here, like Akwa Ibom, that will attract people to come and play golf. And then investment will develop those, we have them already. Let us try to develop them and see whether it will bring money or it will not bring money. Than going to Yankari and going to Obudu to have seminars. People want to come from Abuja to Jos to have seminars. And when they are coming, we will read from it.
Thank you very much.
Well, I will devote a little time for repeater later. But then, the tourism sector is where we have a comparative advantage as a state. We will be able to improve on our conference tourism potentials. We should be able to improve on the medical tourism potential of the state by investing in this sector. Of course, the natural endowments are there for us to harness to ensure that that will also be an area of improvement. But we need to also establish what you will call a tourism master plan for Plateau State and look at constructively the various endowments of the state and begin to revisit some of those areas that have been neglected. We have good waterfalls that we need some degree of investments in this direction. But a great deal of tourism has to do with private involvement. Privatization is key. We need to create an enabling environment where the hospitality industry will certainly witness a boost. And that is why it is good to look at the infrastructural expansion, not just in relation to our roads, as complementary to the tourism potentials of this state. Because you definitely have to create access to those locations in a manner that will be pleasant enough for people to participate. To that extent, I want to say that some of the neglected hotels that are owned by government, we will need to reinvest and bring them up to stage. Though of course, the security environment is very key in maintaining the kind of tourism that we want as a state. Because of course, there are circumstances where people are put on red alert on the possibility of coming in. So we will definitely have to improve all these opportunities in a manner that will redound to the advantage of Plateau State, which should be the tourism destination of Nigeria in the true sense of the word. And that's why we go by the slogan, home of peace and tourism. And these two major areas are areas that require significant attention.
Thank you very much, sir. And I'd like to let you know that on the social media platform, there's quite a number of questions that have been floated, and as you can see, there's so many of them, but we have to sift through and see which one we can present here, because so many of them are repetitive, and some of them are already questions you have answered during the course of the debate earlier on. So we may not have to take anything. And so we've come to a point where we say, let's now go into the live audience participation now, so we can have a rest to them. Before we do that, I think I'm not going to respond in terms of the improvement of tourism.
I'm very eager to speak on that too. You see, we are blessed in Plateau with a good weather that anybody would want to come and invest in tourism here. But we cannot be talking of tourism when there's no peace and security. I served in Namibia as a High Commissioner there. And tourism is one of the major foreign exchange earning in Namibia. They have a lot of wildlife. It is easier to kill a human being in Namibia than to kill an animal, because that is the live wire of their foreign exchange earning. I had arranged with the people in the tourism ministry in Namibia to come and look at Pandam Wildlife and Yankari Game Reserve. When they came and they were on their way to Yankari, they were made by armed robbers. They got there and saw people. They have never seen this kind of thing before. They saw people lying face down on the road, and they were asking them at gunpoint. They took all the money they got. When they went back to Namibia and met them, Ambassador, you want to bring tourism in Nigeria when there's no security. So, gentlemen, we must ensure that there is peace and security in Plateau. Most people who wanted to come and invest, Africans who wanted to invest in Nigeria, in Plateau here, in the hospitality business, and they were caught up in the 2008 crisis. And of course, they went back. I want to underscore this point that we must make sure that we have peace and security in Plateau before we start talking about bringing tourism. This is very, very important.
Thank you very much, sir. This is wonderful. You're also the gubernatorial today, the Plateau Gubernatorial today, 2015. And this is an exciting time that we have candidates coming in to represent three political parties here. The Labour Party, we have Ambassador PRTVC who just spoke, And we have for the All Progressive Congress, Barrister, Right Honorable Barrister Sam Lamont, and we have for the People's Democratic Party, Senator Kian Patrick. On the gubernatorial debate, Plateau Gubernatorial debate 2015. And we're going to the audience participation segment. They sent in their questions, and I would like to create the indulgence of the members of the audience here. I will call your name, and I will request that you stand up so that we can recognize you and wait for you. So you acknowledge that this is actually given for you. I hope this is okay. Thank you very much. Alright, I have something coming from seat 40. And please, somebody, seat 40, can I have you stand up and wave? Alright, ladies and gentlemen, there she is. Since it is a fact that civil society and non-governmental organizations have contributed immensely to the development of Plateau State. Unfortunately, they have been largely ignored. What do the candidates, that is, what do you, what's your plan, what do you have to label the non-governmental organizations for the development of the state? So I'll start the question now with Senator Patrick. It's your turn. Thank you.
Well, the fact remains that civil society organizations have a significant role to play. They have, over the years, been involved in the peace-building efforts in the state and have been also significantly recognized. For me, as a senator, I've directly been involved with civil society organizations, and as a result, being the governor of the state is like expanding the scope of involvement of civil society groups as far as Plateau is concerned. We have significantly been part of the programs and activities of the civil society groups, especially in the security sector, in the peace building sector, in the issue of youth empowerment activities here and there. To that extent, we have been able to make contacts not only with Nigerian civil society organizations, but external ones in the process. That has enabled us sometimes to even travel out to be able to engage a number of them to come into Plateau State to do what will be to the benefit of the state in the long run. So to some extent, I believe that it's very possible to further engage civil society. But we are very careful also to take into consideration the fact that there are certain civil society organizations that are actually run by one or two people, and they become so much of private civil society groups of some sort that are more or less individualized. We want to see very productive engagement of civil society groups on the plateau. And that will also involve non-governmental organizations like that are either development associations that we will definitely have to partner with regards to the development of the state. So I strongly believe that civil society organizations are part and parcel of governance, and under my government will certainly expand the scope of that activity in a manner that will impact meaningfully on the progress of the state.
Thank you very much.
Well, civil society organizations are an important appendage of this government. I want the madam who asked this question to know that we are operating in a democratic system. We have a democratic setting. We are not under a military regime or any autocratic rule. So we must accommodate, whatever it is, accommodate civil society organizations within existing laws. They should be allowed to operate within existing laws. We must develop that big chest, big heart for them. That my government will be able to accommodate.
Thank you very much,
Okay, thank you very much. Again, I will say I'm also a beneficiary of the actions of the civil society organization. One, I was an activist before I went to the House of Assembly, a very serious activist. And when I got there, I also know the importance of having civil society organization. And to exhibit that importance, I opened a desk for civil society organizations. That's the only House of Assembly in this country that even bothered to open a desk. Opening a desk, not only opening a desk, I gave them an office, and through that office to interact with my members. I had 5 members on one side and 5 civil society organizations. They were all working in the office. And they started for 3 or 4 months, and the rate of performance on the floor of the House were changing, because they were guiding members of the House of Assembly. They were saying the truth about what was happening on the plateau. And shortly after, in the last 3 months, my recall came. And I will tell you that those who helped me to escape that recall was a civil society organization. I know my friend was on the other side. He was also part of those that wanted to recall me. But you will also appreciate, the role of civil society organizations, because they were seriously hammering on unconstitutionality. I was somewhere, they fought the recall. They fought the unconstitutional impeachment of the governor. They fought the unconstitutional declaration of state of emergency on the plateau. It was not House of Assembly that was fighting. It was a civil organization, civil society organization.